This week, a caped boy fights crime in a city full of corrupt cops. Ryan Cecil Smith joins me to discuss Ben Sears' graphic novel, Young Shadow. First, if you appreciate the work we do on deconstructing comics and our other podcasts, we'd love it if you'd support the show at patreon.com/deconcomics for as little as $2 a month. Check out our goals and rewards and pledge your support now at patreon.com/deconcomics. This is Tim.
This is Ryan.
And this is Deconstructing Comics. Welcome to Deconstructing Comics. This is Tim in Tokyo with Ryan in the Los Angeles area. How are you doing?
Hey, Tim. I'm great. It's Friday right now. It's Friday evening for me, Saturday for you, so it's a happy time.
Yeah. And, of course, Ryan's done a few critiques with me recently, but we decided maybe it'd be good to do something that's maybe a little higher quality than some of the critique material. So we're doing a graphic novel published by Fantagraphics.
Yep.
And this is called Young Shadow by Ben Sears. Now, I had to get straight in my mind that he's someone different from Bart Sears.
I don't know who Bart Sears is.
Bart Sears used to do work for Marvel, but he's like 25 years older than Ben Sears.
Oh, I don't even know this guy. Yeah, well, Ben Sears is a young man by most accounts.
Yeah, I read the Comics Journal interview with him and said he was born in 1988.
Oh my gosh, that's how young he is?
Yes.
Well, you know what? Human to human, I can still relate to him,
Yeah. But yeah, that's the year before I came to Japan, so.
Oh my goodness, Tim. Wow, that's nice. Well, yep. Actually, so I'll tell you what. I consider myself friends with Ben. I hope that isn't a conflict of interest. I should just say that. I've worked with Ben. I like Ben, and but I hadn't read this whole book before, and I'm a fan of his work, and I kind of wanted to talk about this one. I think I suggested it.
Yeah,
when we were thinking
you
of things to
suggested
do.
This one,
and I'm just curious to hear what your read is on it, and how you felt about it, and I'll talk about how I felt about it too, and what it was like.
So, Young Shadow is a kid who's a costumed hero. He doesn't have any powers. It reminded me of when I was a kid, and my brother and I, we had Superman and Batman costumes that our mom had made.
Oh my goodness.
So it was just, cape, basically. Paul had a bat cowl, though, just like this blue cloth bat cowl with ears.
Wow, good.
And so we would play Junior Batman and Junior Superman.
Yes.
And I did fantasize about, what if we, really fought crime? And, at the time we were living in Centerville, Iowa, which is about 6,000, 7,000 people.
Uh-huh.
Not many superheroes around.
To your knowledge.
I thought about it. I thought, well, we'd probably get shot, so I think we won't do that. But I did do comics about us as Junior Batman and Junior Superman fighting crime in Centerville.
Uh-huh. Yeah, this is like that. He's the main character. Yeah, everyone calls him Kid. He talks kind of mature, but everyone's like, "Hey, Kid."
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Maybe this kid's like 15 or something. And yeah, he has no powers. It's just like a kid who seems to go around at night and call people on their phones and be like, "Hey, have you seen any trouble?" And they're like, "No." And they're like, "No." And but he you kind of see this thing it ramps up into a whole story, and the first fight he gets into is just a bunch of kind of assholes hanging out in a park.
Older kids.
I almost said teenagers, but one of the kids' father later says my adult son is such a waste of space. So, a bunch of maybe college age goons, and this 15 or 16-year-old lectures them and beats them up.
Yeah, and he's a really good fighter.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, so the plot centers around this key that he finds and doesn't know what it's for, but eventually he finds out and he's trying to keep it away from the bad guys. But I felt like him, when he was out walking the dog, pulling out the key and looking at it was not a very smart move. Somebody saw him and that got him in trouble. And so I felt like, well, he is a kid. He does make some amateurish moves.
I agree. It doesn't seem. Yeah, he doesn't seem like he's in the world of adults, and maybe that's like his. It's also he has this kind of like naive. That's not true. It's naive, but like very like simple set of morals. That like most adults would be a little more wishy-washy on things, maybe. But that kind of reminded me of a kid. Like the
first thing that we see him really try to take on is mistreatment of a dog, which isn't what you would normally expect in a superhero comic, but they're taking really bad care of that dog, feeding him scraps, and they've got, they've clearly got money, they've got tablets and stuff. So he's just going to liberate that dog and take the dog to somebody who will take care of it.
Yes. Yeah, I thought that's like the first fight. He meets these kids and he just like, or kids, these adults, these kind of kids who are older than him. And he just like walking through the park, sees them, and he immediately sees like, hey, that dog is chained up and eating scraps while you look at your iPads. Mm-hmm. That's messed up. I'm taking him. It's just like figuring out like the rules of this kid's world is like kind of the fun of getting into it. You're like, so this kid just like rolls up to people and scolds them and steals their dogs and beats them up
and steals their credit card and said, I'm going to use this to take care of the dog, to fund taking care of the dog. Like,
which he does. So it's like, very strong move.
Yeah. By the way, I was kind of puzzled by the fact that the story is supposed to be set in Bolt City. Because Kazu Kabuishi's imprint is Bolt City Productions, and this doesn't seem to have anything to do with Kazu Kibuishi's work.
I'm not familiar with this person. Oh. Is this a comics artist?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, do you think it's a deliberate reference to the style or the genre?
Could be. I would think Ben must be a generic-y
name, so
Ben must be aware of Kazu. Mulele and I were talking about Kazu's work on the podcast more than a decade ago, I think.
Well, I think Ben has like an Instagram where he posts like lots of old Japanese cool stuff. So I bet he knows, but I don't.
So yeah, Kazu Kabuishi, he's Japanese background, but he's American. He lives in California, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
And he does. I think he's best known for the series, the kind of YA comic series Amulet. I have not read that.
I don't know that either.
But yeah.
I wonder if it's deliberate. It could be deliberate. I feel like if it didn't like ring a hard bell for you, like, oh yeah, this is a reference. I feel like it might be a coincidence. I know that I noticed that this book it's called a double plus adventure, and like it's kind of in the world or the series of this other very similar cartoon character he draws called Plus Man. So it's like he has like a world that he's been making for some time. So I don't even know if he's in the same city. It might be one of those Metropolis versus Gotham City things. I don't know.
Maybe. Well, I haven't read any of his other work. I don't know what his like city looks like in the other stories. This city, it looks kind of like a fancy adobe house in New Mexico. That's like all of these different kind of rooms or houses or buildings that are all kind of together in one kind of a mountain of a living establishment.
Yes, and Ben has this like way of drawing that's like really on display in this book. Like he has this like really weird and distinct shape language. Like everything is like a soft square. Everything
Yeah.
like fits together kind of gently, like, not like super hard edges, like soft rounded corners, lots of squares.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of makes it like a little bit unworldly. Like it definitely to me doesn't read as like it's purely his imagination. It doesn't read to me as like, oh, this is like New York or like, oh, although, but I like what you're saying. Maybe it's some kind of, oh, this is a New Mexico. It's grounded in its own little language, but it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
seem like a reference to anything specific
Yeah,
to
I don't
me.
know that there's any city that looks anything like this.
Maybe some European city, with little cobblestones. Seriously, that's maybe a better reference, like a European kind of thing with like cobblestones
Yeah,
and
that could be.
and tighter streets,
Mm-hmm. Except that
which
this version looks kind of futuristic.
kind of futuristic. Yeah. Well, they don't have a lot of but a bit of futuristic technology.
And then there are some things that are just not really explained, like these. What are they supposed to be? Lanterns.
Land. Oh yeah, yeah,
But the
yeah.
lanterns can sleep, and he wakes them up and asks them if they've seen anything, and they answer by like blowing air out of one of their holes.
That was cute. I think that yeah, that's right. I When I read that, I'm like, oh, this must be a thing from like because he also has like robot characters, and they have like kind of a speeder bike, like a floating motorcycle thing. So yeah, I kind of like took it as like on page 76, it's like him flying on the flying motorcycle thing. So he also has like kind of like dogs that they don't talk, but they seem to understand. So kind of anthropomorphizing,
Just a
right?
little bit.
Like lanterns are actually little robots that talk to you. Yeah.
Yeah, those things. And then the other thing that was weird was the nuns
Then
who
that was another one. That was a surprise.
who are, let's see,
They like run an orphanage.
the mother of the perpetual circuit.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
which
so that
implies that they are robots, maybe? They
yes,
certainly look
yes,
like robots.
definitely robot nuns. Yes, yes. That was Yep. That was a surprise. And that kind of is, that kind of served a little purpose. That had like a little plot point. The fact that they're robots was kind of important. It was kind of nice. In addition to being like this, just kind of, I thought kind of fun new detail. Like, oh, there's an orphanage and it's all robots who work there. Like they were able to reach into an energy field or something. It was just like it was kind of matter of fact. It was like, hey, this thing we're keeping, you can't touch it because you have human flesh or
Yeah, what
something.
if you put anything other than metal in here, you'll lose an arm, she said.
Something like that. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Now this book is it's black and white and yellow. All the
Yes.
coloring is yellow, which I thought was interesting. There were a few places where it was made it kind of hard to distinguish what was going on.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
near the end when that kind of slime monster comes out of the sewer to get back
Yep.
its suit, I was like not quite sure what was happening. I had to look really closely. And I
Yes.
was reading it electronically too, so that made it a little bit harder.
Yeah. Well, that slime monster was like it was very big, so it's kind of like, yeah, it kind of like is a bigger scale than everything. You kind of to me, I agree. It's his kind of shape language can be, it kind of makes reading a little bit deliberate. Like, oh, that's what that is. Yeah, you kind of do like that. You got to kind of look at it. And but that mud creature was a new type of creature and kind of a new type of shape and a new type of scale. So it was weird. One thing, hey, I wanted to ask you about. Did you get like Frank Miller vibes from this? I thought it was like pretty. Like there's a bunch of the fighting sequences are like the way he fights at like Batman Year One. That's why I said Frank Miller. I guess I should say kind of Batman Year One, which is what is that? Is that Mazzucchelli who drew it? Actually, that's
Yeah.
Mazzucchelli who drew it. Yeah, yeah. Like just like the way he fought was like the fighting sequences had such a cool weird read. Like the way he would like go like left to right and kind of like punk punk punk, like each one striking as he goes.
Yeah, I don't know. The Comics Journal article did make a comparison to Miller. It wasn't something that occurred to me. Maybe it has to do with the way that he's using shading in the panels.
Maybe shading too. He's also. He's a bat. Look at this like Batman panel here. I'm looking at like 109. It's definitely got some like Batman style to this. Oh, you can't even.
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah, and the character is like you said. It's like a young Batman. Yeah, I thought it was thought that was like a cool part of reading it. Also, like the way the fights work, would kind of take me unexpected. Like you said, like it's like he's a good fighter, I guess. I didn't really know what to expect going into it. Like when he just meets all these. I kind of thought maybe they might beat him up. It was really weird, especially in the first fight. Like it's like a little kid coming with a bunch of adults, and you're trying to figure out like what level of irony are we on right here? Like is this kid think he's gonna do it and then get beaten up? But it's like no, he straight up fights them good. And
he always sounds kind of impatient, like, let's get this over with. Every time the fight's about to start, let's get this over with. And, like, I know I'm going to beat the crap out of you. I just want to get it over with.
He knows he's going to beat them up. But he does. But, like, there's one fight he would have lost if some, like, new person hadn't showed up. So he has a lot of confidence, but we don't see him get beat the shit out of. But it could have happened. He's good, but, yeah, he definitely is over. Well, he's very confident.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that like figuring out like how serious is this really gonna be was kind of scary. Like even it was weird to read. Like in that first fight, when he fights these people, like, I didn't really notice that a dude took out a gun, but when I saw him like almost shoot him, I was like, holy crap! Like this basically adult almost shot a kid. It's cool, and it. Yeah, I think I look back. It's like, oh, he did actually like kind of. What do you say when you load the gun and it makes a clicky clocky noise, whatever that's called?
Cocking the gun.
Cocking the gun. That's right.
Yeah.
He like cocks the gun early on, and it was like, well, what kind of book is this? Like, and it's also like, is he have superpowers? Is he gonna like? He never takes the mask off. The main character, you never see him take the mask off.
No, we never see him in his other identity. He's always his young Shadow.
His other identity. And I feel like at this point, I hope that when Ben does another book of this character, that he never does that. It's kind of funny how you can go through like a 140-page book about like a kid taking himself like really seriously, and you're like, are you serious? Is this kid really beating up criminals? Really? It's like, yeah. It's like... It's never going to stop. He just like keeps it going.
Now, I think we need to talk about the portrayal of the police in this.
Yes, I agree.
Because that was something that really surprised me.
Me too.
Because, he says in the Comics Journal interview, he's from Louisville, and of course that's where Breonna Taylor was shot. And so, it's pretty immediate for him. I don't know his race. I couldn't find any pictures of him online, but he says, how could you not hate the cops right now?
The character says this, not Ben.
No, this is what Ben said in the Comics Journal. He said
I think the character also said that.
That could get me in trouble, but I think it's worth talking about, especially in an all-ages comic. I don't know. The fact that it was in an all-ages comic was, I certainly never seen it before. And I wasn't really sure how I felt about it. And, these cops, it has nothing to do with their treatment of racial minorities. They're just flat out a criminal organization in this comic.
Yes.
So it's something a little different from what the conversation has been in the States.
Yeah, I think, I really loved that's how he did it. And, what I liked about it is, well, just that it was like kind of fresh and weird and pretty clear. And, it's like I was saying, like when you start reading the book, like what kind of book is this? And his kind of strong morals. And you slowly, I think what made the point of view of the book clearer is like, not that this has to be a mirror to America, for example, or any city. But it's like, I think it's kind of fresh and cool to have a book where it's like, well, a lot of people do feel this way. Like you said, the cops are a criminal organization, basically. A lot of people probably feel that. And it's kind of cool, I thought, to read a book where it's like he just keeps meeting people who are like, yeah, like he says in the beginning they're like, are you a cop? And he doesn't make any comment. I thought he might say something like, no, a cab or something, like he's just like, like he's like, no, I'm not a cop. But then as the book goes on, he's like, yeah, a bunch of cops in this neighborhood, so they're up to no good. And then like every character in the neighborhood is like, yeah, cops are always like coming in taking free candy. Oh yeah, they stole this money. The cops, they're always garbage. If the cops are here, it's no good. And it's like, yeah, it's kind of cool to express that as a reality for the world of like everyone in this book. I think that's a reality for a lot of people in the world. I mean, I grew up, my parents would not like it if I said such a word, I don't know. We didn't talk about the police very much, but it would be like, listen to the nice policeman,
Sure.
But it's like, yeah, probably not everyone feels that way or talks about the police. So it didn't feel like it was about racial justice.
No, not at all.
For example, but it was like, yeah, these characters, and it's all, by the way, it's also like not, I feel like the book doesn't come out saying like, hey, readers, all police are bad. Because the narrator is like a kind of an unreliable, or the main character, it's like you're looking at the world from his point of view and these characters. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it doesn't come off as like preachy, but it feels kind of fresh to be like, wow, a bunch of people who agree that the cops in their town are a bunch of criminals. And we see the cops in their town are a bunch of criminals. Mm-hmm. And it's like, kind of feels like a weight off my shoulders to be like, to just like read a book where I don't have to be like, well, some cops are really nice, and they're just trying to help the community. It's like, the book isn't trying to say that all cops are bad people in the earth. But it's like it's kind of refreshing to just have like that be a consistent take in the world of this book.
Maybe. I don't know. I would have liked to have seen at least one cop who wasn't a horrible person in this book.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I think that would have been a little more helpful, but
yeah, I see what you mean.
Coming up, Young Shadow's community network, which seems to be dominated by women. Does the book's pace drag too much or not enough? And more. But first, a reminder to join us for trivia quizzes, reviews of The Amazing Spider-Man by Lee and Ditko, and more. Check out our goals and rewards at patreon.com/deconcomics. If you'd rather give a one-time donation, you can do so via PayPal by sending it to mail@deconstructingcomics.com. We appreciate your support.
Salwete. My name is Stella, and I am the host of Batgirl to Oracle, the Barbara Gordon podcast. Batgirl to Oracle is a podcast dedicated to Barbara Gordon, the first woman to hold the mantle of Batgirl for an extended period of time, roughly 1967 to 1988. The goal of Batgirl to Oracle is to examine the character's history from her first appearance as Batgirl and continuing through her tenure as Oracle. Each episode looks at a vintage issue of Detective Comics or Batman, as well as other books like Justice League and Freedom Fighters, and modern issues of Batgirl and Birds of Prey. I also keep track of news involving Batgirl and other members of the Bat family, and I have a revolving series of segments like Babs in the Tube, which highlights appearances of Babs in TV and film, Shipper Spotlight, which looks at a variety of comic and pop culture couples, gives their history, and determines whether they are hot or not, Reading with Stella, which could be described as an audio drama, or just me reading a book that relates to Babs or doesn't, and of course, the mainstay literature recommendation. I have been blessed to interview writers Scott Beatty and Chuck Dixon on their Batgirl Year 1 work, Brian Q. Miller on his Batgirl run, Dwayne Swarzynski and Christy Marks on their separate Birds of Prey work, and the creators and actors of the Batgirl Spoiled, the web series. I hope to interview more creators and actors in the future. My goal, most importantly, is to make a fun, entertaining, and thoughtful show that people enjoy and from which they learn. Find the show online at thebatmanuniverse.net and iTunes, and follow the show on Facebook and Twitter at Backroll to Oracle. Thank you, and fly on, Babs lovers.
I guess like there's a lot that I actually could wish for if this book were longer. Or you know what makes me wonder, Tim, like if we go through his other books, because like I said, there's like another book with another character called Plus Man, who's a type of mass superhero who's very similar to this kid. And it's like, yeah, I feel like knowing that this book is in like a larger world, and like this kid is like a Batman kid who, you know, lives like Batman in his little town. I wonder what the larger world is like, you know, in Ben's comics. Like, there's a bunch of things that I would kind of like to see more of. But it felt like it's such a limited view. In the beginning, it's just his view, and it's like, wow, so this is a kid who walks around beating people up. He's like a vigilante,
yeah,
right? And he's like full on. Well, it's like any vigilante, like Spider-Man or Batman. You know, it's like they don't care what the cops say. They're gonna go in and break into a building and beat up someone. You know. So I'm like, okay, he's definitely a vigilante, definitely not a lawful person. But then in his case, he also like treats the police as a gang. He also like steals dogs. He's like judges you. He's like, you don't take care of dogs enough. I'm beating you up. Or he didn't say it. He says like, give me the dog.
Yeah.
He's like just like walking up to a dog owner in the park and being like, I can tell that you don't take care of your dog. Give me that dog, or I'll beat you up. It's kind of admirable.
I guess so. Now, on the other hand, another aspect of this, which was pointed out in the Comics Journal article, that you know he's got this whole network, and everybody's kind of taking care of everybody else.
Yes,
and
that's right.
Well, improbably he lives by himself apparently, and then he's got this woman who's crashing at his place because she got kicked out of her apartment or something.
Is that the woman with the dog? Or?
Yeah, right. She has a dog.
Right.
There are lots of dogs in the story. Another one of his friends has a bunch of dogs that she's like taking care of or something.
Yes.
Like I think probably all rescue dogs.
Yes.
But then you know he's got this. There are these like younger boys who are he's in touch with, and they've got a whole like communication system, like a switchboard or something.
Yes,
and
they're like it's like in John Wick when all the homeless people are secretly part of an organization that spies on everything in the city, and they have a electronic network kind of thing. Because that's how they like reroute the traffic so he can get to where he's going.
Yeah, and there's a woman who works at the food bank, and he's like, you know, checking in with these people, and they help him, he helps them.
It a little bit reminds me of the experience of like, in a way, it's a little like reading Batman for the first time when you're like, it's like, what Robin is his ward, and you're like, what's a ward? What do you mean he's his ward? You know,
he's Burt Ward.
Dick Grayson is my ward. It's like it's like kind of figuring out the world of this comic is like a process. You're like, what? Yeah, like so wow, these neighbors are really chill. You know, that's cool. And he like buys he buys some dog food. He's like, what do I owe you? She's like, you seem like you need dog food more than I need $5, so just come back and help me do inventory next week.
Yeah.
It's like, thanks. Yeah, he's like a kid. I mean, it's just like the rules don't. It's like an imagination thing. It's like the rules don't apply. Like he seems like a kid. Maybe he's 20. You know, I don't know. But it's same for Robin. You know, when Batman brings Robin on an adventure, you're like, you just brought this 14-year-old gymnast to get shot. You know, it's kind of crazy.
Well, in the early comics, I think he was even supposed to be younger than that. Or my brother and I on Two the Bat Poles have repeatedly said that he was a chubby 8-year-old at the beginning.
That's funny. Well, I think like this is like very off topic, but like I think the origin I've thought about this. The origin of like Robin and like just like Batman and Superman is like imagining you've probably talked about this on your podcast before. I'm just shooting my mouth off, but
Go
like
ahead.
Superman is like imagining you had superpowers, and like Batman is like I don't have superpowers, but imagine if I had a lot of money. And then it's like, they're writing it. And they're like, this is like an adult. Like, let's just send a kid with him. Like, because kids read that's the point. It's like kids read these comics. Send a kid.
Yeah.
It's like you make a hero story about someone, and then it's like, well, it's not like adults. Yeah, it's like if kids watched some like horrible HBO Max show like about Sopranos. If Sopranos was written and like you knew 8-year-olds were watching, like throw in an 8-year-old character. He'll come with Tony Soprano on all his missions.
Yeah, and he's packing heat, and
he'll be packing heat too.
yeah, the kid is.
What I'm saying is like we're like aware of how this is like constructed in kind of a nonsense way, but we just kind of roll with it. So when reading this book, I'm like, okay, I'm rolling with this. They're a chill community. He has like an apartment that looks kind of nice, but he doesn't have any money. He's always broke, which is like, it's like, yeah, cool. Yeah, I know what that's like.
Yeah, and we don't really know what his background was. Like, did his parents die and he got the house, or what happened?
I definitely don't think he got the house. I think he's living in a crap. Oh, didn't they mention like he's like?
Well, remember, he's got the house, and the woman with the dog is staying there.
I thought it was like a building that got bought, and they were like,
yeah, well, and like he was able to do it because he cut the grass around there.
Someone lets him cut their grass, but if they ever
grass, and then in exchange they let him stay there, something like that.
And then they kind of like mention like gentrification kind of thing or something like that. They're like, but they're thinking about turning it into a cactus garden. So if they do that, I'll lose the place I live. And the other character is like, yep. It's like, yep, that's how shit goes. It's weird.
Yeah. Now, I guess judging from the Comics Journal article, this is something that happens in all of his work to varying degrees, but there's a lot of like conversation that doesn't really have to do with the story.
Yeah, what are you thinking of? I can't remember. Yes, you're right. What? Like what?
Well, like the talking about the house. I mean, where he's living, where he lives. That's, or I guess in some of his other work, people talk a lot about what they want to eat. I didn't really see that in this one, but
I think there is a character who's always talking about food in his other ones, yeah.
And I guess the comic that he's doing now on his Patreon, he says it's very decompressed, and there's a lot of this talking about what people want to eat and stuff.
Oh yeah, the one he's doing now is called like enchiladas or
empanada.
Empanadas. Empanada. Yeah, I started to read that, and I didn't think it was crazy decompressed as I kind of remember, but. Yeah, I felt like this one was like mostly direct, but you said it. You're right. They're just like talking about where they live.
Yeah, for me, I felt like it got a little draggy. Like let's pick up the pace here.
Well, okay. So then, ironically, like the one thing that I thought, like I was like, should I say this? Should I say like things I wished it did different? It's kind of a way to read a book, to be like, oh, I wish this was there. That's a thing people say. Is like, I actually wish it had dragged more.
Oh, really? Why?
Yeah, because when you get to like the second half of the book, like it really starts getting to it. Like they're like, this is the key. This is where it is. The villains have this. They're gonna go here. They trap me here. We have a fight. I beat them. Another villain comes up. I beat them. This thing happens. The end. Yeah. And I was kind of wishing like that we had a little more time to flesh out like the world, like kind of used to like the world of the story, and like once it, actually, what was weird? There's this really cool part where it slowed down a lot. Like when he like gets to the nuns' place, it's like, and like the cemetery, there's just like these like sets of like 3 or 4 or 5 pages where he just like walks.
Yeah, and these like really like full page panels or double page panels.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed that. I thought that was pretty sick to like suddenly slow down like that.
And I've never seen a graveyard decorated that way. They're like skulls all around and some lanterns, I think, and it's kind of set up like a park. It
was very like Day of the Dead kind of looking place, and It's just kind of unworldly, but I guess because like when you get to the end, like as you're getting to the end, like we get these new characters. Well, I'll say this, like the characters who get the most development is like the kids that he beat up in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of wanted to see more of that for like almost everyone. Like with the especially as you get to the end and you're like kind of meeting characters quickly, like this gang of little kids who help him out. I just kind of wanted to. I was enjoying the like weird, slow talkiness in the beginning. Like the first kind of section of the book. It's like when he's just like walking around talking to neighbors. That was really cool, and I liked all that setup. And I feel like if we'd gotten, I missed it when we got like halfway through, 2/3 of the way through.
Mm-hmm.
Like the beginning of the book, the speed was quite different. He's just like you said, like calling people, "Hey, any crimes?"
Yeah.
No, you shouldn't call me this late, you know.
Yeah.
He's like, okay.
Did you know he seems to know a lot of women? A lot of these people that he's in touch with are female, like older than him mostly.
Yeah.
And then there's this girl superhero, Spiral Scratch.
Spiral Scratch.
Looks like she's about his age. And
Seems like he just like met another superhero on the street, which is a thing that superheroes do, I guess.
yeah.
Like Batman does it. He meets Catwoman. Superman just like meets people.
I guess so. You run into like-minded people in your
That's true. In real
area
life.
your area of expertise.
In real life, that happens too. Yes, that's true. A lot of like older ladies, it seems like. Although there's some, I feel like there's some gentlemen who own a store, maybe.
There's a guy early on who is like a shopkeeper.
The shopkeeper, yeah.
That one of the people that he calls or visits, but I don't know that we see him again.
Yeah, I think not. It does seem like he's that seems like the friends he has, the people he knows. Yep, I mean we have a strong male protagonist here with a lot of supporting female characters. And the enemies are all these like horrible dudes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I thought it was funny how like he has like so he has like the police are bad.
Yeah.
He has like this like there's like a full on crime syndicate, like a dude who's like Blowfield or what's the dude's name in James Bond? He's like petting a cat all creepily. He's like full, I don't know. He has like full on like criminal syndicate, but then he also has like I thought it was funny when he introduces like the parents or the dad of the trashy mean kids, who it just turns out like he owns the chemical plant and he's just like dumping shit. He's like, oh yeah, they're gonna pass a law next week, so we got to be dumping a lot of chemicals in the lake this week. I thought that was pretty funny. And he's got like the police in his pocket. In fact, the police, I think, when he has a conversation between like crime lord and like garbage dumping dude and chief of police, the chief of police like makes a joke in that meeting, and they're like, "Shut up." So I thought he set up a kind of nice like archetype of like enemies in this world, like a nice set of archetypes.
Mm-hmm.
I could have done with more. What other like stereotypical horrible people in society, archetypical people can we add? It was a good setup.
Well,
yeah.
The that shopkeeper says something about you should just go for the suits in the business district, like the financial
I like
people.
That. I like that too.
Never comes up again, but that was another area that was suggested that was full of corruption.
Yeah, and I liked the part where that person said that, and then this is part of the moral world of this character. Like in the beginning, I think they said to him, "Are you a cop?" And then after he like beats, it was so funny. Like so that again, like he meets these dudes in the park, and he's like, "Hey, take care of your dog, you jerks!" And they fight. And then as he's walking away, he's like, "You don't understand. You're just like one of the suits in the financial district, or something." They're like, "You're just like a square in society."
Something like serving the system, I think was
serving this. Yeah, you're just like serving the system, which I thought was like kind of funny to hear. That like, I feel like young Shadow probably would not agree with that. even though he's not the type of person to just keep chatting about the insults that they throw at him. But it was like, yeah, I was like, oh yeah, is young Shadow ever gonna question himself? Am I just serving the system? Were they right? No, not really.
Yeah, he just says, well, like, I don't have time to philosophize or something.
Yeah.
What I was thinking of is on page 8, where he's talking with Denny, who's a shopkeeper. You should take a break from this night shift stuff. Catching purse snatchers is fine, but you can save time just going after the suits in the financial district. And he says, we'll see.
It's another thing where it's like, the characters in this world are just like matter of fact, like, yeah, the police are cops, the people in the financial district are all criminals, they're just trying to steal from us, they're ruining our neighborhood. It's just the way it is, just the world we live in. Just like, yeah, that's pretty. I thought, just a little line there. That's all he went for it, but it's kind of rounding out that vibe in the world. Funny.
I just had a couple of little things that I wanted to call attention to. Now, I wasn't sure what to make of this. On page 57, when young Shadow, not for the first or last time, says, let's get this over with before a fight, the balloon kind of runs off the edge of the panel, and the H is like off panel, the H in with. So I wasn't sure what Sears was... Well, what Sears' reason was for doing that. It's kind of just interesting.
I know. When I read it, I was like, oh yeah, I know what's happening. And it happened. He got interrupted. That's why he did that. Because the next panel, he gets punched in the back.
Okay.
So even when I was looking at that panel,
there's a page turn there.
I was like, oh shit, and then boom, gets punched in the back. And he had been like winning the fight, basically, or he'd been mostly winning the fight. This is the part where I mentioned that like he could have lost this fight if Spiral Scratch didn't come in, a character who had never been in here before. A very superhero comic-y world. Like, he's basically going to lose his first fight, and just this other person just drops in. So basically he's being confident. Spare your life, story. Let's get on with it. And boom, gets punched in the back, and he's going to lose. And then this girl rescues him.
Yeah. The other thing was, I didn't get a page number on this, but when his friend Jen at the food bank, her tires are slashed and her truck full of food is stolen, she sees her neighbor's motor scooter there, and I liked how there were like these little sparkles around the motor scooter. It really communicated how she was seeing it, like, oh, there's the answer.
That's cool. I'm looking for that. I kind of remember where that was. Oh yeah, I see it. Yeah. And then she immediately says, like, I got us a ride. Go lock up the shop.
Yeah, because apparently she's borrowed the scooter before, and the neighbor is right there in the window, and she says, can I take this? And she says, yeah, sure. And of course the neighbor doesn't like the cops either.
She says, I hate those bullies. Go ahead, you know the key code. Wear that helmet. Yeah. Yep.
But I just like those little sparkles.
It's another, like, I mean, I love his, like, visual language, which looks freaking exhausting to draw, by the way. It looks like there is I'm sure Ben is, like, trying to economize, because it's constantly, like, every single shape is, like, 3D. Yeah. Like, there's, like, nothing flat here, ever. And, so actually, those like sparkles are this like weird. It's kind of the only time we saw sparkles like that. His typography even is like whenever on the opposite spread, like vroom vroom vroom, like those letters are like bulbous, round 3D things. So those sparkles are kind of unique. He also had that like giant like zoom page, which is like pretty cool. Giant zoom. Actually, this whole like sequence reminded me of this is like. Do you watch Boba Fett? Do you watch Boba Fett?
I'm just finishing up Mandalorian season 2. I'm running behind.
Oh, okay. Well, wait, Mandalorian season 2? Well, is that Boba?
So
I don't know where we're at.
Boba Fett appears in that starting in episode 6, which I just watched yesterday, but the Boba Fett series has just been coming out. This season 2 of Mandalorian is from like a year or more ago.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I actually I thought this is like really similar to Boba Fett and Mandalorian. Like surface level, that like the scene with the motorcycles zooming around. I was like, oh yeah, I saw this like in a couple episodes back in Boba Fett. They had some like, because it's like Star Wars has the speeders, like the floating speeders.
Oh yeah.
So kind of similar kind of thing. And then actually, don't this play? It's kind of you mentioned Adobe, kind of has a Tatooine vibe potentially, kind of similar, but also like one of the weird things about, man, I hope people reading this, listening to this podcast aren't like, oh my gosh, shut up about Boba Fett. I've heard enough. But or you don't feel it. I'm not spoiling, by the way. But like the world of Boba Fett is also like a weird world in terms of like good and evil and like cops and the powers that be. Like, well, just the character of Boba Fett. Like he's like a bounty hunter, so he was bad in the movies because he's the one who captured Han Solo. And in this TV show, it's like, not to spoil anything for you, Tim, or listeners, but it's like he's kind of like a good main character of this show, but he's like a crime lord. So you're like, what am I rooting for? What he's like, it's like Grand Theft Auto, like you're gonna take over the city and get all the rival gangs kind of thing, and you're like, is he good? Is he bad? I don't get it, So that's just kind of a similar vibe to reading this thing. You're like, is Young Shadow, hey, one reading of Young Shadow could be like, hey, this kid doesn't like cops, beats people up. He's pure bad character. Young Shadow is bad. Which I gotta say that's a reading of this book.
Yeah.
So similar. It's just like but I like that about it, that like it provides you with a fresh read. Like he doesn't even like look to camera. And Ben doesn't like say like, "Hey everyone, the cops are bad, y'all." It's not like that. You're reading it from the voices of the characters being like, "Cops are such bullies," or the cops in this town are such bullies. I know they're always looking for trouble. It's similar like in like this like Star Wars world, like who's bad, what's good. Okay, I'm like following this character as they do their thing. And even with Young Shadow, like I wasn't like totally behind him, like especially in the beginning. I'm like, so you just beat people up? But I'm like, okay, he seems like he's helping the community. Seems like he's a good kid. These cops aren't cool. They're just helping the developers steal sludge. So Young Shadow or steal weapons.
Yeah.
So it's like kind of a neat way to read a thing, Like Mandalorian, like Boba Fett, which wasn't so good. I didn't like Boba Fett season, but you can,
really?
Anyway, Mandalorian is really good though, I think. Just my opinion.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I think that's it. So thank you.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, this is it's been cool. I'm glad we talked about this. I'm glad I read it.
Young Shadow is published by Fantagraphics. You can help the Deconstructing Comics family of podcasts by joining us on Patreon at patreon.com/deconcomics. And go to deconstructingcomics.com to connect to us on Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube, to shop on Amazon to support the show, and to find links to subscribe to the podcast. Our theme is by J.B. Anderton. If you're looking for some constructive feedback on your comic, send it to us and we'll critique it on our spin-off podcast, Critiquing Comics. Send it to mail@deconstructingcomics.com. We'll read at least 30 pages of it and critique it on the show. Next week, Kumar interviews writer and artist Jim Rugg. Till then, this is Tim, and thanks for listening to Deconstructing Comics.